Today I'm going to talk about a story that just came out in the press 2 days ago about satanic ritual abuse, SRA. And in the story, there were a group of children that alleged to have seen the people that were teaching them witchcraft turn into animals. Now, these children were put in the microwave, they were tortured, raped, made to kill animals, made to rape each other. They were filmed, they had to do the filming. They were being introduced into the Ouija board. They were being introduced into all of this satanic ritual, satanic occult. And basically what happens to the children is that they either get killed or they then get pregnant, and then you get the children from those pregnant children, and then you do further rituals, or you bring them in as high priestesses and you make them carry out the rituals. So you sort of prep them and indoctrinate them into this thing. Now, everything in the article is supposedly written as if it was correct. The bloodbaths, the killings, the stabbings, the rapings, the microwave, the fridge, the ovens that they were tortured in. All of these things are real. Even the Ouija board. In some articles, I think it says that they said that they spoke to demons. So it is alleged that they thought they were speaking to demons. And then it says it is alleged that they think that they said that they saw people change into creatures, and that is alleged. So everything is believable except for this one thing. Now, throughout history, we've always had people turning into creatures. Little Miss Red Riding Hood, we've had vampires, we've had werewolves, we've had all of these things, but we never actually believe that it exists. In the past, they believed it exists. In the past, they were happy to say, oh, in the forest at night, be careful, strange things happen. But with the advent of science, science couldn't prove that these things happened, so it denied it. So we believe that these things can't happen anymore. Or the ordinary person, the normal person, the scientific person. But the mystic, the occultist, these people, they see things a little bit differently. We've had our perception trained, and we've been brainwashed into thinking that the world that we see is the be all and end all. We find it hard to say that we saw a spirit or a ghost or a UFO. Even pilots that see things that they shouldn't see keep it quiet because they're scared of losing their job. If you say you've seen the ghost, you might be a mental person that should be in a mental institute. If you hear voices, it's because there's something wrong with you. Nothing is real. Nothing is objectively real. Subjectively, it might be real, but objectively, it's not. Now, the reason I want to talk about this is because they're saying that this ritual happened, which is for Satan, but they're sort of mitigating or neglecting the fact that Satan exists and these things can actually happen and they're real. These things have been going on since Moloch. These things have been going on 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years. Ceremonies involving blood, killing, sex of children or virgins to beings have been going on for a very long time. And the reason they've been going on a long time is because they work. That's the reason. Things that don't work, people don't do. People don't do. That's the way it goes. And the people that are involved in these rituals and sacrifices, they're not stupid people. They're educated people. They are lords, ladies. They are princes, princesses. They are presidents. They are politicians. They are university experts. They are professors. They are all sorts of people that are very rich and educated, that have gone to university, and they participate in these things because they know it exists. So the article is sort of denying that this other world actually exists. So on one level, it's actually saying, well, this satanic abuse, it happened, but it doesn't really exist because we don't believe that these things can happen. And I think that we're in for a little bit of a shock in the future. I think some very strange things are actually going to start occurring in the world. I was just reading just now that sharks attacked a boat, orcas attacking a boat. I think that animals are going to start turning against humans. I think strange phenomena is going to start happening. It already has. The UFO phenomena is coming out. We've spent ages and ages and ages saying, well, you know, UFOs didn't really exist, and so if you believed in a UFO, you're a bit of a conspiracy theorist. But now the Congress has said, well, no, UFOs exist and we have alien material. What happens is that you are told that if you believe in something that you shouldn't believe in, that you're crazy. But then when the government admits it and it comes out, nobody goes back and says, oh, sorry, you were correct all along. They instantaneously change their perception or ideology to that of the modern narrative. and cease and are unable to accept that in the past they didn't believe in these things, and they attack people that did. And when they have their modern narrative at the moment, they keep it, and the people that are saying things that go against the modern narrative, which they have now inculcated into their life, they now classify as weirdos and conspiracy theorists, when they are now believing in those very ideals in the past that they claimed other people were conspiracy theorists for. What they need is permission from the government to tell them that they are allowed to believe in these things, which is a textbook case of textbooks at school telling you what to believe in. The textbook becomes the government. If the government says it, it's true. If the textbook says it, it's true. And if it's not true, then they go back and they say, well, that textbook was wrong. Well, they never say it was wrong. They just go and update it. So updating things neglects the fact to apologize to the things that you got wrong in the past. And so when you have the world works on a metaverse. It works in a simulation. Now, the simulation ideology was existing way back in the past, but recently in the past it was negated. And it was not until, for instance, the Matrix came out, or until the metaverse came out, that we were suddenly given the vocabulary or the perception or a point of view to see that if we can create another universe, then perhaps our place or universe that we are in is also a metaverse. It's also a dimension. It's also a matrix. So as technology comes along, it provides us with a language and vocabulary in order for us to look at where we are in the world from a more objective point of view, and to bring things that are more difficult, that or have been more difficult in the past to accept, to be more acceptable. So now a lot of people believe that we're in a metaverse. Now, going back to creatures manifesting, okay? Now, some people might say, yeah, but this is just too far ahead. Well, hold on a minute. If you had enough nanotechnology and you put the nanotechnology inside of you, and you had DNA that could change DNA, or something that you inject into you that could change your DNA, you could suddenly start changing. If a butterfly can go from a worm to a butterfly through a cocoon, and you can see nature doing strange things, turning into strange things, then obviously you could also say, well, humans could go from that. You could go from a human into a cocoon into something else. That's the transhumanism, isn't it? That's the transhuman agenda. And so if you had technology, you could get the technology to do things. In a lizard's tail, when you pull it off, it grows back again. With the technology we have now, we want to have youth. We want to keep young, so we don't want to get old. So that's a miracle, but it's done with technology. We want to grow new organs. That's a miracle, but it's done with technology. But in order for your body to do it yourself, people still haven't got to that point where they think it could truly be real. Now, if you're a human and you took enough technology to turn yourself into an animal by changing your human DNA for pig DNA, for instance, people would say, oh yeah, that's okay, we believe that. But if you told somebody 500 years ago that, they would think that you were crazy. They would think that you were into witchcraft. And so why is it then that the magical and the occult element can do these things that technology can do? And I'll explain why. It's my opinion that the other worlds that you enter into are matrix or dimensions. The words can easily get confused, so I'm using them fairly generally and fluidly. But it's my opinion that there is an AI in those other worlds. The reason I say is because with plant medicine and shamanism, you can go to those other worlds and you can see things. Now, the medicine has a way of filtering things or viewing things. It has its perception. So it's a door into another world, and it gives its character to those things. So it could be like parabolical, if you like. It has its language. So forms might take on the form of the substance in which you're imbibing into your system. But the thing is that other people see the same form. So it might be that the medicine is giving form to things in the way that it wishes form to be perceived by the viewer. There might be that going on. But apart from that, it is possible in shamanism and in many other different systems that you can change into things. And in the shamanism in the Amazon jungle, people changed into things like tigers or jaguars for very specific reasons, and it was to hunt. Now, the reason why they stopped doing that, so they say, is because with the pelts of the animals, hunters were killing any and every single jaguar that they saw. And so if you had a shaman which had turned into a jaguar to go hunting and then got killed, then you're hunted by hunters, so it became sort of dangerous. And also with the advent of arms and rifles and things like that, you didn't actually need to go and hunt, you could just go and kill. So that's one reason why that happened. Now the sort of the ether in the other world, in my opinion, is run off some sort of artificial intelligence, some sort of very advanced artificial intelligence, because the entities in the other world, they have machinery. Now when you do magic, it's like calling into those other areas, and some people or some systems have particular areas or telephone numbers or entities that they call to. Some of those entities, they change names, but they keep the same office. The problem with the books is that it's very different from the shamanism. The shamanism takes direct experience. With the books, I don't know too much. I'm not an expert on the books, but you've got a Solomon's Key, and you've got the Grand Albert and the Petit Albert, and you have all sorts of other books that you can do spells in and change and things like that. And in medieval Europe, as the shamanism had disappeared, but there was probably still some relevance of it left, these books started coming in because the Christianization of things killed the wizards, they killed the shamans, they did the witch hunts, they did all of these things to sort of extinguish, but it was still kept. There were still pockets, and some of those people went into the church and they set up groups. Now, some of those groups then went onto the books, and so they could like blend, if you like, what their mysticism and the shamanism and the books together. But this is an area I don't know too much on, so I'm not talking from a source of wisdom, but I'm talking generally how I see it. But going back to metamorphosizing or changing or transmuting, as we go into transhumanism, we're going through transgenderism, where we're changing from one gender to another. We're going into transhumanism, where we're changing from humans into cyborgs. But there are also other transmutational devices which happened in the past, which were where people turned into animals. But you can also transmute into an angel. You can also transmute into a higher being. It's not only going down, it's also going up. It's not religion and Christianity trying to transmute into the Christ consciousness? Is it not trying to transmute into Krishna consciousness? Is it not trying to transmute into Buddha consciousness? The human is transforming, it is transmuting, but it's trying to do it consciously, not physically. So physically is a different animal altogether. But with the AI in the other world, with the celestial or the astral AI, let's not call it celestial AI. I did that the other day, but it might be wrong. More astral AI. The astral AI, that if you have the access codes to it, which you do through ceremonies and you do through initiations and you do through study, then if you get the access codes to that, then you can start transmuting into different entities or into different animals. But transmuting into an animal is quite low. Why would you want to transmute into an animal nowadays? If a human is supposedly more conscious and more intelligent than an animal, why would you want to go down? What you want to do is to go up. Now, the reason why some people turn into these animals is because it's lower and it feels better being lower. But it's also, oops, I've run out of battery. I'm going to have to go with my hand now. So also, why would you want to change into an animal? Well, it might feel good, it might be powerful, you might be able to do something with it. If you change into a bird, you could go and visit other places, but also there are the metaphysical changings into animals as well. So when you transmute into an animal, it's not only that you're transmuting physically, but you're transmuting spiritually. That means you can transmute spiritually into an animal, but you stay human, or you can transmute into an animal physically, but you can also take on animal type instinct or form. So if you change into a vampire or you change into a jaguar or a tiger, then you would go and hunt people, because those rules and those laws are different. You take on the essence or the understandings of those animals and you become those animals. And one reason why out in the Amazon people don't do that anymore is because when you start transmuting into things, you start becoming like those things, and it's more difficult to interact with humans and to be social anymore, because your heart starts to become more animalistic, more raw. It's a different energy. You know, what you want to be doing is going up, not going down. So in this newspaper article, they've said, okay, fine. the children have alleged that they saw them transforming into other animals. So if we as people believe that that isn't possible, then what else in the story do we believe is not possible? Or you say, well, they did it on drugs. Well, the children might have been on drugs and they might have seen something, but also drugs help you to change into other forms and other animals. That's why if you look at LA and you look at all those homeless people, they all take drugs and they appear like zombies because another energy is being inculcated into their form. It's being imbibed into them through the drug. The drugs that are being made, like cocaine and meth, it's been made for money, power. It's been made for luxury. The plant medicines are being made for consciousness. They're two totally different types of drug. One is to go up, the other is to go down. And so by putting these drugs into society, you're increasing, for instance, money flow. A lot of capitalists, a lot of rich businessmen and bankers, they take cocaine, they take things like that. During the Second World War, Hitler was on methamphetamine. They gave soldiers methamphetamine to go and fight. Drugs are tools that can be used for things. But when people take drugs for business deals, like cocaine, what are they doing? They're enabling this thing to happen. They're enabling change to happen. They're going to ceremonies and doing weird things with cigars and whiskey. Well, whiskey's a drug and cigars are a shamanic drug. Cigars are used to heal people and to see things and understand things in the correct way. But you can also use tobacco for other things as well, like business deals, which is the introduction of perhaps oppression or capitalism in a false way, not in a true sense. So what I think this story is about, it's about, number one, it's about revealing that satanic ritual abuse is around. Number two, the people that were involved died. Now, I don't know why. Maybe they just wanted to get out of having to go to court because they knew they were in so much trouble with the filmings and stuff like that. Or maybe it's linked to someone else, and so they were got rid of to protect those other people. And it's also to say that, it's not that the press want you to see that it's not true that changing into animals and things can't happen. Look, if we are in a video game, then it can happen. Just in the same way when you play Super Mario Brothers or Sonic the Hedgehog and you take a mushroom and you expand and run faster, you transform. In the computer game, you transform. If we are in a computer game, if we are in a simulation, then the rules that apply to Super Mario also apply here. The only difference is because we don't know how to activate those codes, we think it doesn't exist. And because perception of reality is taken away from us, and we believe that things in the past didn't happen. For instance, you take Egypt, for instance. You're told that civilization started 4,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago. They're now finding things 12,000 years ago. And they're finding things 50,000 years ago, which they believe is not possible. In school, if you are taught that humans are only 200,000 years old and civilization started 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years ago, that is the modern narrative. That's what you believe. So when other ideas are introduced into the narrative, for instance, we were visited by aliens, we were visited by space creatures, we had technology which is way beyond the technology that we had at the moment, we start to disbelieve those things because we fail to have the imagination that those things could actually exist. And it's the same problem here. We do not have the imagination to believe that it's possible to transform. It is.